Another one of the things that you touched on, it goes back to the Patrick Henry quote, "Give me liberty or give me death." I actually owe the influence from you and Continental Congress one of the reasons that I made that choice, and I would give my life for liberty. What was it when you decided that you would die for this cause?
I've been doing this for about 28 years. It kind of grows. And my first encounter, the IRS wanted money from me that I didn't think I owed, and I ended up borrowing money from household finance in order to pay off the IRS. But then as you continue to study, eventually it's just like, now wait a minute, either the Constitution means something or it doesn't. This isn't an ideal. Either we're free and they work for us, or I'm just a slave. And I think that it probably happened about 1997 when I arrived in Texas, and I needed to renew my driver's license, and I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound. If I really believe this, if I'm not just making this up and it's not just textbook, intellectual rhetoric, then I need to put my money where my mouth is, essentially. And I haven't had a driver's license since 1997. I've been stopped, dozens of times. Frequently, after I explain the Constitution and the difference between rights and privileges, they let me go. The police officers, like, I'm just more trouble. I'm more confusing to them. And so sometimes I've been successful, other times I've been thrown in jail. And people say, well, you got to pick your battles. You don't want to get thrown in jail. You got to pick your battles. I said, I have. I have a right to keep and bear arms, but if I go down to the governor's mansion with my shoulder holster, you're going to see me one more time. I'll be on the 11 o'clock news, and you're going to see my feet as they put my body into the medical examiner's van. I may be right, but I'll be dead. So I've chosen, or at the time I chose, to travel without a driver's license and to, fight that court system because, they're not going to put me in the electric chair because I refuse to sign a piece of paper. They could put me in jail, they can, fine me money, but I'm not going to die. So I've chosen my battle. And these people say, well, it's a pain in the butt. You need to get your driver's license, not have to do that. And I said, so what battle have you chosen? Do you still have a driver's license? You still fill out your 1040 form? Do you do everything the government is telling you to do? Well, then you've chosen not to fight any battles. How do you expect to win the war if you won't fight any of the battles? Either the government works for us, which is what it says and implies in the Constitution, or we're slaves to the government. But it can't be both ways, and I refuse to be a slave to anybody. It is a matter of principle now, and I stubbornly resist any government encroachment. I travel around the country teaching my Constitution class. The most disgusting thing I have to do is go through airport security every time I fly. I hold my ticket in my teeth so I don't accidentally say something that's going to get me arrested. And I don't like to do it, but if I were in Vietnam, I may have to crawl on my hands and knees through the mud in order to win the battle. I wouldn't like it, but I would do it. And to me, I don't like going through TSA, I don't like the searches and stuff, but I do it in order to win the battle. I need to get from different places across the country. The best way to do that is to fly, and I can't light the fires of liberty effectively if I don't tolerate the TSA searches.
Earlier you mentioned that one of the reasons why we don't have a constitutional republic is because the government no longer feels that we are a threat to them, regardless of what kind of threat that is. Now, you said we need to be able to show a credible threat, which obviously we haven't been able to show that because we still live under an unconstitutional government. What does that credible threat look like to you? How do you feel that that could potentially manifest itself in a manner to where we can compel them to go back under their constitutional restraints?
Well, there are two types of credible threat. There's a small group of people with guns, and there's a large group of people that don't need guns. And so we really have a choice. If we want to do this non-violently, we need to get everybody involved. your friends, your family, your coworkers. We need to have rallies at all the capitals. And I'm not talking 100 or 200 people. We got 21 million people in Texas. 200 people, that's a picnic. It's not a rally. We need 20, 50, 100,000 people rallying at every state capital, letting these people know we're not putting up with this anymore. I mean, we came down to tell you in person, and if we come back, it's going to be with tar and feathers. We're going to make this painful. We're going to put you in jail for treason, for violating the Constitution, for violating your oath of office. And unless we get a large people that are capable of doing it and apparently willing to do it, then we have no credible threat and we continue to live under tyranny.
A lot's made. You mentioned earlier potential financial collapse or civil unrest, you were saying. A lot of people take many steps to be self-sufficient. Do you feel it's important that Americans today are doing all they can to become self-sufficient? And if so, are you taking any steps to become self-sufficient yourself? Absolutely. This is probably the most important thing, is to be self-sufficient. There's not going to be any food on the shelves. I don't care if you've got $1,000, you're going to go to the store and the shelves will be empty. So you need to have a year to a year and a half supply of food stored up. You need to convert as much of your money as possible into gold and silver, because paper money is going to be worthless. Well, paper money is worthless, and suddenly people are going to know that it's worthless. The third thing that you need to do is you need to have guns and ammunition to protect the food and protect your silver, because if you don't have the guns, somebody's going to come and take it all away from you, and it's as good as not having it. You also need to have neighbors that you can trust. We need to get back to that community feeling. People used to go sit out on the porch, they would talk to their neighbors, they knew the people they lived near. If I had a problem, I knew that I could come by and you would be able to help me out. But we get into such tight lives going to work, we don't know who our neighbors are, we don't know who we can trust, we don't know who we can rely on. Nobody can do it by themselves. So we need to really build this bond with our neighbors and friends to know who's on our side. And we need to educate the people who aren't on our side yet. The Democrats and Republicans who still think that everything is going along the way that it's supposed to. You need to teach them about the Constitution and gradually bring more people over to our side. It's happening. It's happening slowly, but that speed is picking up. And sooner or later, everybody's going to know. Everybody's going to know that the Federal Reserve has been counterfeiting money. Everybody's going to realize that the government is out of control, and it's going to happen. But we need to be aware of it and be able to control it, so that it doesn't get violent, or at least not any more violent than it has to be. You gave a pretty scathing critique of the National Libertarian Party just recently, and now here we are in Texas. What's your view of the current state of the Texas Libertarian Party?
The Texas Libertarian Party is doing extremely well. We are growing like crazy. When I arrived in Texas, we had a really strong party, but then it kind of collapsed after I got here, and we have almost rebuilt the Texas party from scratch again. When I ran for office in 2000, I think we had 8 Libertarian candidates in Travis County. 4 years later, we had 108 candidates just in Travis County, and we had over 200 candidates statewide. So Texas has always been for liberty. I mean, beginning with the Alamo, we've always had a spirit of independence, a spirit of self-sufficiency, and a spirit of, damn it, this is the right thing to do, and we get involved. And that's one of the reasons I live in Texas. I love that spirit. There are more American flags and more Texas flags in Texas than any other state has. I mean, I've never seen another state that loves its state or its state flag.
We get it tattooed on their back too.
It is a passion. It's an understanding for liberty, and I think that's why the Texas Libertarian Party is doing so well. We work together. We still argue among ourselves, but not bad. you know, we can disagree, but when the work comes, you know, we get together and we work, and that's the only way we're going to accomplish things.
Last question. What is your favorite part of the Second Amendment?
It's that click when the safety goes off. I mean, if you don't understand shall not be infringed, I'll explain it to you. Okay? There's no way that you're taking my gun.